Ladies and gentlemen, today we are back in the garage doing garage stuff. I put the exhaust back on the Mercedes over here. Well, you can't really see it, but I actually have like legit hangers attached to the body now, or attached to some other spots on there, so it shouldn't be just kind of hanging down by a chain and banging around under there. Should be a much better result than what I had last time. But that's not the main reason I'm in the garage today. The main reason is Felix here, as we've named him, or it. Well, him, Felix, it's a boy. Anyway, the Speed 3 that I've been wanting to drive since I bought it, and not really wanting to drive since I bought it because of this. Oh, let me refocus it. So this is the VVT actuator here, and as you can see, the actuator is moving independent of that bolt there. This bolt should be controlling. There should be friction washers on either side of this, I believe. So that bolt should move when you move the actuator, or currently, since everything's still tightened, nothing should be moving. But here we are, and this is exactly why it's all apart. Because there's this much play, which probably in its own right is a problem, but also the fact that the actuator moves. And you can see, while I do that, that none of the cams are moving. So yeah, it's moving independently of the actual timing, which is kind of an issue. Usually, when you have your VVT actuator or a timing actuator doing its actuations, you want it to be in time with the rest of the timing system. So pulled it all apart, bought a ton of parts over here. Probably actually some of these I won't be using, almost certainly. And there's the new actuator. Bloop. Got a ton of parts and some instructions on how to do it, thanks to the MazdaSpeed forum. I even have a video, thanks to wannabe tuners here. Some Canadian talking fellas. I don't know why I added that, but they sound Canadian, so, you know. Anyway, yeah, so, ton of parts. Today, I think I've been working on this for just over 6.5 hours now, and I literally just got to the point where I took the valve cover and now this timing cover off. The timing cover I'm assuming has been done before, because there was a bunch of Mazda's RTV in there. I'm actually, they probably do that at the factory too, I'm assuming, so I don't know. I kind of assumed it had been done before, but then again, it doesn't really make sense that I'd be doing it now if it had been done before, because there was a revised version, unless, you know, it was done early on in mileage with one of the original versions that were, you know, that we now know are the bad versions of the actuator. So I've got one of the good versions, and just a whole ton of other parts, because this engine's at 125,000 miles now. So I hopefully will never be taking this back apart again. 6.5 hours to get here, because I've been incredibly careful about taking everything apart. You know, I mean, there's quite a bit of stuff that has to be taken out, such as the battery and the battery box, the ECU, and all that stuff over there were pulled out. Obviously, you don't have a whole lot of room in the engine bay, but also the intake for the turbo is right there. You can kind of see. Boop. I don't know why I keep pointing to things, but that's where it is. And of course, when you have the valve cover on and everything else back in here, it's out of the way. It's just one of these normal worm gear clamps, and this little head is sticking through like a 1-inch opening that you have up here, if you're lucky, and stack a bunch of actually, you know what I did? This. I was able to get this 8mm wrench on, or now I'm completely blanking on what you usually call these, but I have an 1 1/16, I think, yeah, 1 1/16 socket that happened to fit over it, and that was the only way I could actually get enough torque on it to loosen that worm gear clamp. Some people say it's like a 6-hour job to do, but like I said, I think I've spent 6.5 hours just taking it down to this part. I still have the crank bolt is just loosely spun into place down here. Boop. So that, I'm just going to back that back out and remove the cover, but I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to eat and play games tonight because I'm a lazy piece of shit. And I've been out here for too long already, so I'll put the valve cover back on and call it a day. It is that time. I have put my Speed 3 back together after doing the VVT timing job, and I took my sweet ass time. When I took it apart, I spent almost a whole day just taking everything apart, stripping it down to where I could redo all the timing stuff, but then it took me almost probably a month and a half now to kind of slowly get enough time to put it back together. Kind of had other things going on, wasn't top of the priority list, but this morning I just put everything back together, or, well, I filled it up with oil, rather, and put the intercooler and the serpentine belt on, and that was all I had left to do, I think. So, I'm about to moment of truth this motherfucker, and hope I didn't break anything. I wanted to do this before I put everything back together, preferably. Well, before I put the wheels back on and drop it, because this car's on coilovers that are pretty freaking low, so I actually have to jack up the back of the vehicle, which in turn jacks the front of the vehicle up enough for me to get a jack stand under it. That's, yeah, I don't have a jack that's low enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this a shot. I suppose we should probably take those off. Unplugging this Maximus. Boop. Okay, so we still got power. That's good. Very good. Alright. The only other thing I was going to do was drain the gas, because this has been sitting since, I don't know, a couple months. So I'm a little... Okay, it didn't break, and it turned over. That is a fucking win, as far as I'm concerned. The fuel pump comes off for the VVT job, so I'm kind of assuming that may be part of why it kind of died there. I had heard other people had issues starting it a couple times before it actually took. Oh boy, this is really nerve-wracking. Okay, nope, I have 0 battery. Alright, well, so good and bad news. Good news, it turns over and nothing broke. It even ran for a second, so that's like a win, a small win in my book. Ah! It runs! It freaking runs! Oh man, that's so good. I can't believe it. I didn't fuck it up. I mean, I won't really know until I drive it. Maybe I fucked it up, but I didn't fuck it up enough that it doesn't run. So, that's worth something. I was able to find my little jump pack, and got it on here, and obviously started it up. So, I'm gonna have to listen a little closer when I start it up next time, though. The entire reason I did the VVT job was so I didn't have timing chain slap, and boy, it sure sounded like there might have been some rattle at startup. So, if there's still rattle at startup, this was a very, very expensive and nerve-wracking lesson. However, at this point, I'm just happy to have the damn thing running and be able to drive it again. So, if I have to take it to a shop and give them like $1,200 for them to fix it and be done with it, I would rather not, but the amount of joy I got out of just starting the car up right now would probably be worth it if I didn't do it well enough. So, alright, I'm gonna go check and make sure I didn't piss fluids out anywhere, double check my work, and then double check that there's no chain rattle.